Hello and welcome to this episode of FireDEV, a fireside chat with people in the industry. Today I have Huabin Ling, and welcome Huabin. How are you?
Hi, Farhan. I'm great. Here, speaking from China.
Fantastic. So you've worked at Chukong and on the Cocos, engine, and the products for 10 years. So how do you get, into Cocos, and what do you specifically do at the company?
Okay. First clarification. I actually haven't been for exactly 10 years. It's almost 9 years, and I work for Cocos Technology, which is G Software, and we are invested by Chukong.
Ah, okay, fair enough. Is it owned by Chukong or just like part investment by Chukong?
Sorry.
So you're saying that it's an investment from Chukong. Is that company or product owned by Chukong as well, or is it like just an investment?
It's just an investment, and we have other investors too.
Okay, okay. So fair enough. So what do you do, on this product?
Okay, I currently I'm the engine department leader for Cocos Creator, and Cocos Creator is our mainstream product in Cocos currently. Previously, we have Cocos 2DX and Cocos 2DJS, Cocos 2D HTML5, all sort of in the same family of Cocos 2D, and after that, we wanted to do a transition from a framework to an editor. So workflow oriented game editor, and we started the project Cocos Creator in 2016. Um, until now, we have three major version of Cocos Creator. The current version is 3.7.
Okay. And so what's the difference between Cocos 2DX, Cocos Creator, and also Cocos Engine? So, like, what's the main differences, and why would you choose one over the other?
Yeah. So Cos 2DX is a very classic framework for game development, and it's a pure code. It's driven. It's written in C++. It exposes the APIs for JavaScript, Lua, and C++. If you want to code game with pure code, and if a developer want to control everything, it's very nice to use Cocos 2DX. But also it's targeting 2D mainly. We sort of added some 3D features, but it was not so mature. And also in that journey, we discovered 3D features upon 2D engine design, and also without an editor, it's not gonna work. That's the reason we started Cocos Creator. Cocos Creator is a full-featured editor, and it has a runtime engine, but it provides all game development tools to create scene, to create UI, to create animation, and put everything inside the editor to link logics with components. So user can write component to drive all the visual objects. Um, yeah, the main design of course Cocos Creator is totally different with Cocos 2DX. It's a design-centric workflow, and also it's targeting both 2D and 3D. We initially, in 2016, when we designed the product, we wanted to firstly have the workflow. So initially, it was 2D game development tool, and for like 3 years, 3 4 years, In 2020, 21, we released 3.0, and 3.0 is fully 3D engine. We have rewrite all the engine kernel to support all the 3D rendering infrastructures and all the 3D toolsets, including animation, model, mesh, and scene building, all sort of things. So 3.0 is a very big change in course creators' life cycle. Since then, we have added a lot of features in 3D, and now we have some very complex demo and very complex games built on Course Creator 3.x. Cocos Engine is the engine in Cocos Creator. So it's the open source engine repository on GitHub. You can find the engine by searching Cocos Engine, and it's under Cocos account. Um, the engine itself is pure open source. So if you publish a game in Cocos Creator, what you get in the package is totally in your control. You have all the source code of the engine part of your game's logic and of all the resources. I hope that's
Oh,
clear enough.
yeah, it does. So you've got, so obviously just talking about these three, a little bit more, because like you said, you had Cocos 2DX, which you still got, and that had Lua, JavaScript, and C++ bindings. And you got Cocos Engine, which is the underlying engine for Cocos Creator. Well, for starters, what language is Cocos Engine written in?
Cocos Engine is written both in TypeScript and C++. So TypeScript engine is for running in web, and C++ engine is for running on native platforms like iOS, Android, and desktop.
Yeah, okay. And how does Cocos 2DX and Cocos Engine differ? Because they're both like an underlying, framework of sorts that's code based. Because obviously Cocos Creator is an IDE, an editor that's based on, Cocos Engine. But if somebody was to just go and download Cocos Engine, how does that differ to Cocos 2DX?
Yeah. So it's very important, actually. Cost to dx is a very classic object-oriented game engine. So, like if you have a sprite, the sprite is extended from the node, and actually all the node type is extended from node. If you want to have a new feature, you will need to extend from node. It's pure object oriented, but for Cox Creator, we have to design a data driven workflow, and for the data driven workflow to function perfectly, we need to craft a node component system. Uh, so in Cocos Creator, you have to use the how to say that composition design pattern. That means you have all the node in your scene, but you compose the components as its behavior, as its functionality on the node itself. But the node is just a pure node. It doesn't have any functions. It doesn't have any features. It has the ability to be positioned. It has the ability to design to define its bounding box, but it's many composition of all the components it has.
Okay, and because I know you can just go and get Cocos 2DX, set it up, and start making games in there. Can you do that with Cocos Engine? Because I know a lot of people will go to Cocos Creator, but you said you can get Cocos Engine open source on GitHub. Could I just download that and set that up in, I don't know, Xcode or Visual Studio or Android Studio and start developing using that or not?
You can't use directly Cocos engine. I mean, there might be a way, if you really want to craft everything by yourself, it's possible. But as it's designed with the editor, we designed all the data-driven workflow, like the serialization, on deserialization, and the sync graph. Everything is bound with editor's design. So it will be very complex to use code to create a scene. It's doable, but nobody will be uh, will afford that experience. It's very unfriendly.
Fair enough. So, will Cocos Creator ever be open source?
Course Creator as the editor is not open source. We don't plan to do that because it's also related to our business model. We build a lot of business collaboration upon the editor itself, and uh, we would like to give the freedom and ability to extend all the features in the editor. So there are a lot of part of editor is very clear to access, but we can say it's open sourced. It's not open sourced.
It's not open source. Okay. And forms does Cocos Creator support?
Hmm. That will be our main advantage as a game engine. We are very powerful in cross-platform, uh, both in platform support range and also in the ease um, of porting your game to different platforms. Um, First of all, we are a mobile-first game engine. It's very
Hmm.
hard to find a mobile-first game engine actually in the Western market. Last month, I have attended GDC. We have talked about Cox Creator during GDC. We have a talk about our render graph, the infrastructure of our render pipeline. That's a side note, but actually, we find out that a lot of engines in the Western are targeting desktop first, but we are different. We are targeting mobile first. So we have iOS, Android as our first class platforms, and we also have web as our first class platforms. That's also special because a lot of other engines doesn't support web very well because they are using WebAssembly workflow and they are only supporting desktop. Uh, as in Cocos, we support web native as natively as possible. We use the whole TypeScript engine to publish to the web, and we provide TypeScript APIs to our engine to our developers. So developer code will be written in TypeScript, which is very easy to learn, very easy to use. And the whole game, when it is published to the web, is will be in JavaScript and can be very easily natively running in the web. So that's the main platforms of Cocos Creator, but we also support all sort of instant gaming platforms like WeChat in China and Facebook instant games and TikTok. In China, there are many like Oppo, Vivo, Huawei. All the smartphone vendors um, have its own instant gaming platform. It's how to define instant gaming platforms. It's actually like the web. You click and play. You don't need to download any content. You don't need to install the game. You just find the game in the store and you click on the icon. It will pop up directly and open the game for you. So most instant gaming platforms have the technical stack as web, but a lot of them are closed. They are not. You are not accessing via a web browser. You are accessing from their runtime. So it's kind of a web browser but closed ecosystem. And thirdly, we support desktop platforms like Windows and Mac OS. Um, we sort of have Linux support, but it's an in-house support. So if you support, you can contact us. For lastly, we also support Nintendo Switch, and it's I think we are the only free to use Nintendo Switch game engine.
Okay. Okay, so you definitely supporting a lot of platforms, which is
Yeah.
obviously good. So you was talking about these instant games, and what's the sort of performance difference, if any, of these instant games that you click and play and you don't download, versus going to an app store, downloading a game and having it stored locally? Is there much of a performance difference?
That definitely has a performance difference, but it's not that huge. Actually, the web is already providing a very good performance because of the development of GIT. Um, on both iOS and Android, you can access to the website with support of V8 and JavaScript core, which all support JIT. With JIT support, the JavaScript can run very rapidly. Um, yes, it's not comparable to a pure coded game, but if your game logic is relatively simple and you are relying mostly on the GPU. For example, you have a very complex thing and you are writing a first person shooting game. Um, the most the most power consumed will be on the GPU side. Your game would probably
Yes.
be GPU bound, and if it's GPU bound, I think web can provide relatively a web and instant gaming platform. Both provide WebGL backend, and the WebGL backend can run quite well, quite well. Yeah.
Okay. So before you had SDK box, and that was a big project for you guys. I got two questions around that. Why was that dropped? And two, the features that SDK box has, like in-app purchases, add banners, that sort of stuff, the extra stuff to modern games. How does Cocos Creator handle that?
Yeah, that's an important question. Also posed a lot in our community. Um, I actually don't know the exact reason that we drop why we drop. Um, Actually, it's been always an individual company that to operate SDK box. Um, but there is a relationship with our company. I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure why it's dropped. It's many uh, business reason. It's possible. I'm not sure. I can't give the concrete reason here, but for Cox Creator, we are trying to fill in the gap. We are trying to fill in the gap by collaborating with all the SDK providers. Like we are adding ads in our Coco store, as plugins in our Coco store, and we are collaborating with several important providers like Google, like Apploven, and I'm not sure. Wait a moment. I can I check?
Yeah, go for it.
Wait a moment.
Whilst you check, are those plugins free or do you have to pay for them?
Normally for SDK plugins, they are free.
Okay.
They want users to use them. Uh,
Yes.
they don't want to block them in that case. Just a moment. We actually have a service panel in Coast Creator, and the service panel have a lot of collaborators to put on their plugins. It's different than the core store plugin. It's more you can consider that a higher level collaboration.
Okay. So these plugins, well, obviously you got these SDK plugins, like for ads and that sort of stuff. But what other plugins do you have available to help aid the development of games?
We actually have all sort of plugins like for how to say that the multiplayer for netcode and also for animation, for camera control, for gameplays, and also you can find SDKs for publishing, publish to playable ads for to different platforms. You can also find plugins, very amusing plugins like ChatGPT. There is a ChatGPT plugin so that you can communicate with ChatGPT directly in our Cocos store, in our Cocos editor. Um, and all sort of things actually. It's just like other plugin stores. We have a lot of game samples too. We also publish game samples by ourselves. For example, the latest Cyberpunk demo we have done in Cocos Creator is
I
published
saw
for
that.
me. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that definitely looked, very good. So that Cyberpunk demo, how long did that take for you guys to make it, and how many people were involved uh, in making it, including programmers and artists and 3D modelers, etc.?
Yeah, it's a quite quite interesting story here. It's actually started very early. We started the project in 2021. So in the beginning of 2021, we released the 3.0. We think we have to show the power of our engine with some very good looking demo. So we have a outsourcing company called the Art Core Studios. They are very popular in Epic Store too. Um, and we contact them. They are willing to sing for us. We have finished the outsourcing in almost a year. So by the end of 2021, we had all the resources. We actually built the game already, and we have a video at that moment. But the problem is that our editor doesn't allow you to actually create the game from scratch. That means our editor doesn't have all the features it need, like reflection probe and light map is not good enough. So we haven't released the project. It's not open sourced by then. Um, Last year we spent I think half a year. We started the project in September. Um, there are two-person working on it, one graphics engineer, one gameplay engineer, and we worked on it for half a year to remake all the game. Just use code creator features, and it's also rely on our latest version 3.7. We have light probe, reflection probe, light map baker, all sort of features built in the editor. That's how we can build it um, and release it this year. So that's quite a long journey, but it doesn't take us a lot of resources. It's just we need a time for the engine to get mature, for the toolset to have all the needs ready. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So a few years back, there was Cocos Studio, How does Cocos Creator differ from Cocos Studio, and why, again, why was that dropped as well? Because
Yeah,
that seems very similar to Cocos Creator.
you're really very familiar with the Cox family. I appreciate that. It's hard to find. Actually, I'm very uh, how to say that. When I go to GDC this year, I find that people don't know Cocos. They barely know what Cocos is, and even if they know Cocos to the X. It's dated. It's the information in the Western is very dated. So I really appreciate that you know all the history and the product we had. Coco Studio is a editor we have done for um, for all kinds of features in Coco Studio X, and it's really tightly bonded with Cos to the X. So all the features are written for Cox to the X features, and when we want to change the whole infrastructure from framework to the edit workflow, we find that it's not possible to just modify all the existing code base. And also, Cox Studio is using .NET framework, so it can be published to Mac. I don't think so, and uh, I do think they have a Mac version, but I can't recall how they did it. Um,
It might have been
Anyway,
using maybe using Mono or something.
it's possible. I think so. I think so. But it's not nature. So when
No.
we do Cox Creator, we have to all the resync of our infrastructure, of our engine design, of the editor workflow. We think it's very important to have a data-driven workflow. So entity component, node component is one of the most important design. Uh, and another important design is that we don't want the editor to be we want the editor to be as stable as possible, and also it should be very easy to develop. We have limited resources, so we don't have a big group of editor development. Um, Due to that reason, we choose to use Electron as the base framework of Cocos editor, Cocos Creator editor. So designed as a whole the whole editor. But fortunately, with Electron, we can very easily develop the UI, all the workflow, and all the toolset upon Electron. And we have npm modules, which is a great help in our editor development. So we find it quite quick to build up everything for Cocos Creator. Then we just dropped Coco Studio because it's just not possible to simply change things. Sometimes you need to when it's a generation upgrade, you need to break things.
Oh yes, and sometimes you do. Sometimes you need to just start from scratch. Otherwise, you just got too much legacy,
Yeah,
code. And you see plenty of big companies like Microsoft that are still going off so many legacy, systems and libraries and code bases. That's just because it's working. It's very difficult for them to,
yeah.
switch it.
I think it's a lesson very it's a lesson for us. It's a very painful lesson for Cocos team. We were very successful in the initial years of mobile gaming because the devices are very limited. The power of devices are very limited.
Mm.
Uh, they are very segmented. They are all sort of hardware, all sort of screen resolutions, and we are very good at supporting all of them, and we are very stable. In 2012, 2013, I think we already we can cover almost 97% of the market. I mean, when we do test, there are 97% of the device can run smoothly and run without any problem stably. The game produced by Cocos 2DX. So it's very powerful, but and also we have a lot of users, all the developers in China and a lot of developers around the world are using Cocos 2DX for mobile game, and it's a fortune, but also it's a burden. When we want to do 3D, firstly, we have done it in Cocos 2DX in 3.15. I think it's 3.5. I think we started to add 3D features, but we must take care of the backward compatibility, and we have a lot of legacy in the infrastructure. It's very hard to add 3D features. In the end, we added some of the 3D features, but it's from the perspective of now, from the current perspective, it was not a good design in technically. So I think that's yes. So go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just saying. I was just agreeing with what you were just saying. Carry on.
Yeah, so we found that very painful lesson because we have to. We had a lot of users. We had a lot of games published with Cos 2DX. When we want to change things, it's very difficult, and we are afraid of break things. We are uh, tie, uh, we are limiting ourselves. That's the reason why we can't have successful 3D transition from Cos to the X. And then we don't have a lot of resources by then. So Cos to the X is a free engine, open source engine. We can't charge anything from user. Even the developer have earned a lot of money, but we didn't earn a lot of money from that period. So at the end, we don't have a lot of resources to really maintain Cos to the X and add all sorts of features upon it without breaking anything. So when we want to do Cos Creator, we decided to do from the scratch. It's the most easiest way, and uh, it's also would be very more efficient.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to just make that decision. So, I mean, you was just saying that when you went to GDC, that not many people, had heard about Cocos or they weren't up to date. So, I had a question about, is Cocos more popular in the Asian markets? Because in the West, I personally don't know many people that I haven't personally introduced Cocos to the X2 that
Mhm.
actually know about the engine. Like pretty much everyone that I know that knows the engine that's not in the Asian markets, I have either I've come across them through the forums or like friends of mine, they only know about Cocos 2DX because I've spoken to them about it. Whereas Unreal, I know loads of people that know Unreal or know about Unreal that I've never talked to them about Unreal, but they know about it.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, in Asian market, we are kind of popular. Uh, in China, as I said, we are the engine which support very well instant gaming platforms. On WeChat, which is the most popular SNS in China, and there is more than 64% of the game on that platform is made with Cox Creator. So you can see it's dominating. And on mobile app market, I think we have sort of 30% of market share in the mobile gaming platform. And in other part of Asia, in India or in Vietnam or Thailand, we have a lot of developers too. Some famous developers are from that part. For example, Ubisoft Da Nang in Vietnam, they are using Course Creator to do uh, Ubisoft Nano, the whole platform. All the a dozen games are published, are created with the Cocos. And also there is Gameloft using Cocos Creator in Vietnam. We are very popular in Vietnam.
Okay, that's interesting. So, Cocos 2DX, I want to talk a bit more about that. It hasn't had a public release since 2019. And I know we spoke about Cocos Creator, how that's, the main focus right now. But are there any plans for newer versions of Cocos 2DX? Or is it safe to say that Cocos 2DX has been, replaced or dropped in favor of Cocos Creator, and you can download it, modify it, use it as you want, but you can't, expect a version 5 or a version 4.1?
Uh, we can safely say in the near future there's no big plans for Cost to the X. We The resources we expense are mainly on Cost Creator, and um, of course it's open source project, so there's other port, there's other people maintaining the project with their own rep story. Um, all that is welcomed, and you can also count using our forum, using our Discord community to reach out for help. But the version plan is not clear here.
Okay. And, because like you're saying, it's open source. There's other projects out there, and one of those ones is the Axmol engine, which is based off, Cocos 2DX version 4 was called Axis before
Mhm.
that. What's your opinions on Axmol and, those other sort of offshoots that are, like you said, maintaining Cocos 2DX, adding new features and, fixing bugs?
I actually don't know them very well. I heard of them in the Discord community, and I haven't take a look at their rep story, so I really can say.
Yeah, okay. So Cocos Creator does not support C++ directly. Are there any plans for changing there? And also, and where does that leave C++ developers that want to use Cocos?
Okay. Um, So the philosophy of Cocos was always about accessibility in both development and user. So we want more and more developers to develop games using Cocos, and we want to lower the barrier of game development. We also want our games created with Cocos can be reached by as many as possible users. So the reason we are supporting TypeScript as major language in Cocos Creator is that we want it to be as easy as possible. And it's a trend in the game industry. Unity has C Sharp and Unreal has Blueprint. They are now having Verse. All these are scripting languages. The major studios we know are using scripting languages for uh, gameplay development, like Lua or Python. All sort of languages are used. So we are not directly providing C++ support for that reason, because it will be very complex to handle the two language support. But in Cocos engine, actually the render part and the render scene part are implemented in C++. You can also add C++ plugins we have native plugin support. You can add them to the CMake file, and it will be compiled with the engine with the project. You can also have our bonding system. We are using in the latest version in 3.8, which will be released in June. We will support in your project to directly expose APIs for your C++ module to JavaScript, to TypeScript. And it's very easy to use and very quickly. You just have to write a configuration file, and then it will build your not only build your C++ modules, but also expose the C++ module API to the TypeScript part. So I think it's a very healthy model. In a very complex game project, you can have a core team to craft all the C++ modules for very heavy tasks, and then expose the API to TypeScript. Upper level gameplay logic can be using TypeScript to be as efficient as possible. And yeah, that's the plan of Cocos Creator now. So it's not entirely uh, the API are designed for TypeScript, but we are also allowing C++ developers to develop with it.
Okay, that's good to hear that you have some support for C++ developers. It's not like fully JavaScript or TypeScript. So, how many games use Cocos, whether that's Cocos 2DX, Cocos Creator, or something else, as their engine? How many games use it?
it's it's a, it's too there's too many games. We really don't count it. We actually don't know. A lot of games are published, and we don't know it's made with Cocos. For example, last week I found out is using Cocos Creator, the game from Huabin, and
Uh, what's that game
yeah,
called again?
SS Snaker. It's very popular
SS Snake.
game.
Okay.
I will type it in the message.
Yeah, I think I found it. SS Snake by Happy, yes. Over 1 million downloads on the Google Play Store. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's using Focus Creator or 2DX, did you say?
Code Creator.
Focus
And we
Creator,
also have
okay.
Code War made with Code Creator. And we have AFK Arena, um, Ubisoft Nano, and a lot of games. There are some Japanese games. Square Enix, Nintendo are both using our game engine, but mostly Coast to the X. I think it's called the game. Fire Emblem Heroes are using Coast Creator. Yeah, so I can list the famous games, but I really don't know how many games are using our engine. We are we don't know.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's a good thing to, be in that position where there's so many games. Plus, because the
Yeah.
thing with Cocos is actually, I can't remember, with Cocos Creator, if you publish a game, is there a Cocos splash screen at the start or not? As with Unity, if you don't I think
Uh-huh.
pay for it or change it, you have the Unity splash screen. Is that the case with Cocos Creator?
No, it's not the case. We are much more open than Unity. The engine is open source, and the editor is totally free to use. And we have a default splash screen with our logo on, but we have a in the build panel you can just change it with your own logos. Actually, initially when we add that splash screen, is for user to have visual feedback as quickly as possible. It's for improving the user experience. It's not for showing our logo. But yeah, we hope developers can keep that, can all can have their own version of Cox Creator exposure on their game. That would be mostly welcomed. I think we are supporting Discord team to make games. Their put party in. it's a game inside the Discord are using Cocos Creator, and they will add Cocos logo in the splash screen.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, because Unity obviously is not as open. So, in your opinion, why would somebody use Cocos over Unreal or Unity or any other game engine? You got like Godot engine, and there's a bunch of other ones as well.
Mhm. So I can't. I'm not sure why. All I'm not sure for all the developers, but we know some typical reasons they are using Cocos. Firstly, the platform support is a very good reason because we support instant gaming platforms in China, and also we are supporting web very well. When you want to develop a game for web, especially for mobile web, Cocos is kind of the best game engine here. And the cross-platform, secondly, the cross-platform ability. That means not only you can export to different platform, it's very easy to do that. That's a very important fact. When you want to port a game from web to native or from native to web, it's like just a day of work, or even less. If you don't have a lot of SDKs to add, normally your game just run smoothly on different platforms. So we are very good at cross-platform. And thirdly, TypeScript is also a reason. A lot of developers love TypeScript. It's really easy to use, and it's it, it, it's used by a lot of developers. It's like the first language on GitHub. A lot of front end developers are using TypeScript. When they want to develop a game or develop entertaining experience, they would like a TypeScript engine. Um, I think we have other important factor that developers choose us, but we really want developers to know that we are mobile first, and we are very good at cross-platform. Those two are the main advantage of Cocos Creator.
Oh, good stuff. How many users does Cocos Creator have? Like how many people are using the game engine?
I think if I recall the number, I think we have 1.6 million developers, and
Ooh,
yeah,
a lot of developers.
yeah, it's quite big. Uh, it's there are of course more developers in China than in the Western market, but we are trying our best, especially from this year, to let the Western market know Cocos, know the current state of Cocos, know how we can do things.
Okay. And what are the most popular game developed using Cocos? Again, Cocos Creator or Cocos 2DX?
Mm.
The
Okay,
ones
there are
with the
so
most downloads.
most downloads. I
Yeah.
really don't know. The 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 competition can be very very intense. For example, FK Arena, Top War, and Fire Emblem. They have a lot of downloads from from the whole world. Uh, but I don't know the number of their downloads, so we don't do the comparison between different games. Um, but those three are very good example. We also had a Pokemon game, but it's a legacy one. I don't think it's still in operation. In China, from every period of the mobile gaming, we have iconic games uh, published with Cocos. For example, in the world actually, for example, Badland and Kingdom Rush, uh, Geometry Dash, they are all using Cocos. So we really have a lot of good games and had a huge downloads.
Oh yeah, I remember playing, Badlands, and I haven't played Kingdom Rush, and but I remember playing, Geometry Dash as well. I mean, they were some of the more earlier, really famous
Yeah,
games, especially in the Western market, that were made using Cocos. If I recall correctly, wasn't Badlands made using Cocos to the iPhone initially? The iPhone version, the Objective C
uh,
version.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know that it's being used in Coast 2DX. Maybe it's for the second version. I
Possibly.
really can't be sure.
Okay, and do many people still use Cocos 2D iPhone, the old version, or not really anymore?
Not really. There are still users using Coast 2DX though. Even a lot. We can see some trending games in China still using Coast 2DX.
Oh yeah, I know a bunch of people that still use Cocos 2DX, and me personally, I still use Cocos 2DX, C++. I've had a look at Cocos Creator, but I personally like being able to do it all in C++, and
Oh,
not having some sort of layer that kind of interacts with C++, having it all open source as well, and I for me, Cocos 2D, I wish personally that Cocos Creator was built on top of Cocos 2DX, and you had the C++, underlying code that you could easily modify, and then or just have like a coding uh, project only, and then just do certain things, maybe some UI based stuff in Cocos Creator, and do the rest in Cocos 2DX C++. So that's what I would have personally preferred. But like I said, I know a bunch of people that still use Cocos 2DX, and they want to continue just using that. But it's a shame, obviously, it hasn't been updated. But I'm hoping these other engines that are coming out, like Axmod, that are built on top of it, really do keep getting maintained, and get new versions.
yeah, I hope so. I hope that pure C++ developers can get a very easy to use and very good maintained C++ game engines. Um, but again, in Cocos Creator, there are a lot of native code written in C++. Um, I Actually, the initial version of Cocos Creator 3.0 was called Cocos Creator 3D, and it was published in 2019. And at that moment, it was pure TypeScript. We initially have done a version for only for web platforms, and after that, from from 2019 to 2021, we have we have rewrite the GFX layer, which is our infrastructure for the renderer in C++, and release the 3.0. Then we support all the native platforms. Um, and in 3.6, we have rewrite a lot of other codes in the other modules with C++. So we are using more and more C++ code in Cocos Creator Engine, and hopefully in the future we will even have a full C++ engine. It's beneficial from perspective of performance. We just need more time and resources to do that.
Okay. So with all these features and all these different platforms supported, do you guys have any, VR support? And what's the roadmap for VR, AR, mixed reality, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we actually have a official XR plugin. We have put VR and AR support uh, all in that plugin. It's called Cocos Creator XR. So if you type If you search for Creator XR in the Cocos store, no, just a moment. Yeah, if you search for XR in the Cocos store, you will get Cocos Creator XR plugin. And this is for both AR and VR development. It supports now many devices. It supports OpenXR. Um, just a moment, I will see whether they have the device port here. It's not listed, but it's supporting all major devices that supports OpenXR.
Okay, that's good that you've got that support as
Mm.
well. Are there any things that of note to check out that have been made using Cocos? VR, AR, or mixed reality. Any games, any applications that come to mind?
Applications, I'm not sure. We are just started, and this is developed by another team. So I'm not sure. Uh, I need to ask them for more information on that. I don't
Okay.
think they are famous titles yet.
No, yeah, okay. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things. Give it enough time, especially the developers that are already used to using Cocos. They'll, when they want to do some VR stuff, they'll say, we'll use the VR version of Cocos. So yeah, it's just one of those things. You just have to wait. Wait.
Mhm.
So, how does Cocos, especially Cocos Creator, handle cross-device support? For example, different screen sizes, resolution densities, and power. Because obviously you can get a cheap phone that's less than $100. That's not very powerful, and I know in the Asian markets you can get really really cheap phones for the emerging markets, and then you can get phones that are over $1,000, like iPhone and Samsung Galaxy. How does Cocos Creator, handle those differences?
Yeah, it was actually always our advantage of Cocos engine from the epoch of Cocos 2DX. We already have really good cross-device support and cross-resolution support, and it was inherited in Cocos Creator. We keep testing the top devices in the market. So we test for top 1,000. We still get almost 100% support for them. And this is stability. Yeah, mostly stability test. And for UI adaptation, we have our own features to support different resolution. It adapts directly for different screens, even for the foldable screens, which is really different. Um, we are using a design resolution feature. That means you actually put all the UI, you design all of your UI with the design resolution, and the design resolution will be automatically adapted to different screen size, different screen scales, and it will work. It work very good if you have your all the UI adaptively how to say it? If you have all the UI developed adaptively using our widget and layout. So upon the design resolution, you can have layout to control the overall layout, and you can have widget for each item inside the UI to keep their own positioning very well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that you can definitely tell when a game's put effort. Developers put effort into the game when you load it up on a phone normal phone and it works well. Then you load it up on a tablet, it works well. You load it up on something slightly different, and it just looks right as well. And and then it also performs well. Obviously,
Yeah.
the assets might be slightly lower resolution as a result, but making sure that pretty much everyone can actually use it. Obviously, it's very important.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what can a developer do to get their game working the best across a multitude of devices? Obviously, you mentioned some stuff already, but what are the main things they should focus on to, especially if they're trying to target every single type of device effectively? People that are only buying a cheap Android
Mhm,
device
mhm,
or, a high end device as well.
mhm. It's definitely performance. Um, Especially for low-end devices, you have to pay attention to the power consumption and your frame rate, of course. Uh, so the screen adaptation is just one side of the story. Um, Another thing is that you must make sure it runs smoothly. Uh, we have put a lot of effort in the engine's infrastructure, especially for the rendering part, to so that it can be very efficient. We have a lot of features and which is automatically enabled. Like dynamic atlas, we can pack your even if you don't have any atlas pack in your game, we will automatically pack your UI elements into a big texture so that they can be batched in fewer draw calls. And we also have the renderer redesigned using Vulkan and Metal, so they can run very well. They can save more power on low-end devices. It's strange. Maybe people don't realize that because OpenGL seems to be more compatible with low-end devices, but actually the latest low-end device is also support Vulkan. The problem is that the feature, the how say the power of that device, CPU or GPU is very limited. We are using Vulkan's subpass to save power in bandwidth. That means if you have multiple paths in your render pipeline, between the passes, we have the ability to automatically save your output into the tiled cache instead of writing into the memory. And in that case, if it's optimized, you will save a lot of bandwidth, and this will save you save the power. It will be make your game more stable. It will save memory. So that's all sort of infrastructures we have done for the performance and compatibility. Um,
Okay.
let's say I
So
can call this, yeah.
yeah, okay. So does Cocos support foldable phones like the Galaxy Fold? I mean, does it do anything extra for those phones?
We trigger. We actually listen to the screen change event. So we trigger change event every time, and we will readapt the UI. If your UI is following our design best practice, you will be using layout and widget to repositioning them during the screen size change. So normally it will just work. Um, yeah. We don't have more things to do yet for now.
Okay. How big is Chukong? Like, how many people does it employ? I know they have an engine that's very popular. A lot of developers use it, but how big is Chukong as a company?
Oh, sorry. When you say Chukon have engine, what do you mean?
As you know, obviously, you have Cocos 2DX, you have Cocos Creator.
Ah,
It's very popular. It has loads of developers. Like you said, 1.6 million registered developers, and loads of games. But how big is the company?
Oh yeah, so Chukong is the investor. We are Cocos Technology, which in China we named Yaji Software, and in Yaji Software we have roughly 200 person, and yeah, that's the scale of our company.
Okay. And is Chukong the biggest investor, or like what? Who else is
Yeah,
invested in Chukong, the biggest one? Who
yeah.
else has invested in the Cocos company?
Mm, I'm not sure it's known in Western, and I'm not sure it's I can it's something I can say. So we can skip that question.
Okay, fair enough. And it is the Cocos company. Is it predominantly based in China, or does it have any Western offices as well? And like, do you have plans of doing more of a push in the West?
We used to have offices in Japan and in America, but they are closed. So unfortunately, currently we only have offices in China. We are based in multiple cities. Um, I hope so. I hope in the future, near future, we will open more offices in the Western.
Okay, I mean, I hope so as well, because like you're saying that you experience at GDC, where a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know about Cocos, even though it is very very popular as an engine,
Mhm.
as you know a an engine that's been used to develop games that have had thing probably in total over a billion downloads. So it's definitely not some small project, but yeah, it's just one of those things that not a lot of people over here know about it. Over in China, do more people know about Cocos than they do like Unreal or Unity?
Oh, everyone know Unity and Unreal, so and everyone knows us too. So it's
Oh, okay, so over there everyone just knows all of them.
yeah.
Yeah, so okay, fair enough. So in your your journey so far, as obviously a developer, as working on these products, what's been your biggest regret? What would you change and what advice would you give to somebody looking to get into the gaming industry?
Oh, that's a big question. I rarely regret because I know I uh, let me think. I think it's timing. I really hope that we can be more aggressive and start earlier to break things and to rebuild things. Uh, but that was I really don't have control at that moment. Currently, I am in charge of the whole engine team, but in the early age, I was working for Cocos to the HTML5 engine in the beginning, and then Cocos to the X. But I was not manager at the moment, so I don't have decision on things. Um, but I hope if I did, I hope that we can move more faster and break things. Not just break things. I think we could have keep them both. Um, we could have at the same time develop a new 3D engine and also keep the development of Coast 2DX. Um, make it slowly migrating to a new design. But yeah, I think that's the most regrettable thing for the whole Cocos experience. Um, we kind of act slow because we were still very dominating in the mobile market because the devices wasn't so powerful yet, and the 3D doesn't seem to be the everyone's choice yet, and we were blind at that moment. Personally, I think I don't regret for things. Personally, I think I should be more. Um, I think I can be more dig more profound in graphics, um, but I'm still doing so. So yeah.
Okay. That's good stuff. So that's my, more specific questions around, what you do at, Chukong. I'm not sorry, the Cocos company,
Yeah.
and you work on everything. But I was ending with a few fun generic questions. So the first
Okay.
one I'm gonna ask, like, if you was to start a, company, would you rather run it? Would you rather have a 10-person company or a 1,000-person company, and why?
Definitely 10% company. I think keep things in scale and uh, beneficial is very important, especially after open source engine experience. Engine industry is really hard. People doesn't earn money in engine industry. Even Unity and Unreal doesn't earn money. They earn money from ads from ad platform, and Unreal earn money from Fortnite, but not the engine. So the engine industry is really hard. I respect everyone in this industry. If I would start a business, I would hope the business can be beneficial and can keep the scale so that I can make it easier. Um, and I also like the atmosphere of small companies. Even now, we have 200 person in the engine team. It's smaller in the engine team, and in the engine team, I I keep track of everyone. I know everyone's interests, and um, I can very well communicate with them. We don't have barriers. We don't treat each other as a supervisor and employee. So that's an atmosphere I really like, especially we are open source engine. So yeah,
Okay. So would you rather have five? Obviously, you're in China, but I use US dollar amount. So, like, would you rather have 5 million US dollars up front or 500,000 a year for the rest of your life, and why?
sorry, I didn't follow.
Okay,
Five.
so would you rather have 5 million US dollars up front, like right now, or would
Yeah,
you rather have 500,000 US dollars every year for the rest of your life?
definitely sustainable. I would like that to be sustainable. But I'm not a business guy, so I know many people would prefer upfront money and invest into things. There could be more chances, more opportunities. But for me personally, I I don't gamble for big revenue. I uh, I relatively prefer life and also do things I like. Doesn't that doesn't I'm not pursuing money, especially. That's the reason I don't gamble for big opportunities. I relatively like the opportunity to live my life and have my interests to be fulfilled.
Okay. So, what's your favorite board game, favorite video game, and favorite movie?
Well, there are too many of them. The game definitely Zelda. I played Zelda since Game Boy Advance. not so early, but Game Boy Advance is the first console I had, first device, gaming device I had, and yeah, that accompanied me for a real long time. I love this game, especially the recent game, Breath of the Wild, and the one which will be released next month. We're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so I think it's got Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's coming out. I don't know about in China. In the UK, it's coming out this Friday, so
yeah,
yeah, not long at all. Plus, also this Friday, the game I'm really excited for is
yeah.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor because that's
Oh,
coming out as well.
so you're a Star Wars fan.
Yeah,
Yeah, that brought me to the movies. Uh, I I really don't know how to say which movie to pick. I can say recently, which I like. I like the recent movie I have seen, Super Mario, the big movie of Super Mario, and also Slam Dunk. Slam Dunk is a Japanese movie. I'm not sure whether you know.
I haven't heard of that particular movie. No.
Okay.
So, what's that movie about? Like, what's the premise?
It's about basketball. It's because I think there's a anime series for the first part of the story, and then it was stopped. After of 20 or 30 years, they start to make the movie. I really like the story to be finished. So it's kind of awaited thing for 30 years. Um, and another thing I really like is a TV series, The Last of Us. It's
Yes, that's
really
really good.
very good, very well made. Yeah,
Yeah, they did an amazing job with that because I'm guessing you've played the games as well.
yeah, yeah. I love the first one.
Yeah, so like after playing those games, loving those games, because usually video game adaptations into movies or TV shows aren't always the best.
Yeah,
They have a history of not being that good, and having it, them doing it, then doing the casting overall good, them keeping it for the most part true to the game. Yeah, I like that a few things were kind of modified, but like the overall story was there. So and I like that they didn't drag it out because they
yeah,
could have easily done the first game over 3-4 seasons. Instead, it
yeah,
was first game. First game is one season, and it's not a long season. It was what 8 or 10 episodes. So it wasn't 22, 24 episodes like how they used to be 10 years ago. It was just a decent size season. Eight, I think it was what 10 episodes. I think and because I remember watching it and I was thinking this person's just been introduced, but they're going to be dying soon because in the game they don't last very long. So I haven't spoken to anyone that watched the show that didn't play the game, but I want to speak to them and see how they felt about the show because for me, obviously, I was happy when they introduced characters and they killed them off because that's how they were in the game. But in other shows, they'll have characters and they'll keep them for a whole season until they kill them off. Whereas in here, they would have him for an episode and then
yeah.
kill him off. Because
Yeah.
in the game, you would only have him for 1 or 2 hours, then they would kill him off.
Mhm. It's very compact, and it's a great experience to revisit all the story with small surprises. They modified a little bit background, and I looked at it with my wife. My wife really loves the story, so I also from that I'm also happy.
Okay. So has your wife played the games or not?
She doesn't play this kind of game.
Okay, so she hasn't played it. Okay, so she doesn't, know about what happens. So how did she feel about the show, having not played the games?
She loved the part of the uh, I don't recall the name raspberry part.
Which part?
They are feeding raspberry to each other.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah. Obviously, that part was yeah, because that wasn't in the game.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah, because obviously that whole story between Bill and I can't remember was it Ted or Todd or the other character's name. Like obviously that was they mentioned that other character in the game and he's dead and Bill discovers and that's it. That's all you see.
yeah,
Whereas in the show you get a lot more backstory for the characters. You got backstory for can't remember the character's name, but the brother, the two brothers.
yeah.
Yes, obviously before Henry. That's it. He says you just see them, but you don't see the backstory of why they're running.
So that's really really fun to know to how say to have another person who haven't played the game and rewalk the journey with me and have some different surprises. So yeah.
So, outside of Zelda, what other video game are you looking forward to the most?
Mm, the DLC of Elden Ring. I really enjoyed that game last year.
Okay, Elden Ring, yes. So, I mean, I have not played it yet. A lot of people have, raved on about that. They've loved that game. So I think I'll check it out at some point. I've just got such a backlog of other games to play. It's just as you get older, you're working, you have a family. It's you just don't get as much time to play games anymore.
Yeah, and also Hades, the DLC of Hades. I really love this game.
Which one?
Hades.
How do you spell it?
Um, Wait a moment. Hades. It's a roguelike game. Hades 2.
Are you talking about Hades? Hades?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, Hades. Yes, okay. Yeah, again, a game, not a game that I played, but another person on the podcast, I think a week or two ago, mentioned that as a game that they really liked as well. So it seems to be a very popular game.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we've got Diablo 4 coming out as well. I think the beta is out now, if you
yeah.
pre-order it. But yeah, with Diablo 4, I'm excited to, get my hands on that as well. Because I did enjoy Diablo 3. I bought Diablo 3 for the PS4 version, so it was a bit remastered. Enjoyed it. It was one of those games I stopped playing because I was playing other stuff. And I
Mhm.
kept saying to myself over the years, I want to get back to it. I want to go back to it. So I did enjoy it. Now with Diablo 4, I'm gonna buy that and hopefully have some fun times with that.
Yeah.
So, have you personally developed and released any games?
Unfortunately, not. We Before I joined Cocos, I was in France, and I finished my master there. After that, I joined a company. I created a company with a French to create reading experience for teenagers. So the idea was about adding entertainment into the reading experience. So we're adding a lot of interactive elements like animation, like uh, a few small games into it, and the format is in HTML5, so people can read on web. But that doesn't turn out well. We failed in that company, so we closed that, and then I come back to China.
Okay, so my final question, this I always ask everyone: does money buy you happiness, and what does a good life mean to you?
Mhm. Mm. Money can buy things which make me happy, like games, like small things. But it directly doesn't give me happiness. I don't look at the account and see the numbers and smile. I'm not that kind of guy. Uh, and what's the second part of the question?
What does a good life mean to you?
Oh, a good life. The family is very important for me. So now I have a baby girl born last year, so I'm spending a lot of energy to raise her. It's very power consuming at this moment, and but I really love to see how she grow up. And yeah, family definitely is very important. Also to fulfill my interests, to have a career. The reason I insist in Cocos is because um, I really hope to have a you know the big trending is about big countries rising like China, and uh, but we are not so good at many things. We actually have a lot of lacked, especially in technology and education. I think we are far behind the Western countries. I really love to create something that that is competitive to the Western countries, to the world. I want to build world class things uh, here, and that's a big ambition of mine. I'm not sure whether we can make Cocos so successful, uh, but that's what I want to pursue.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting for you to say. That you think some of the technology side and education is better in the West, like America, for example. Like, what specifically in technology? Because most things are outsourced to China. Everything seems to be just be made in China. So it's not like
Yeah.
China doesn't contribute towards the world's economy. It does in a big way. So, like, what specifically was you referring to? And then also follow up, what specifically in education do you think's better in the West compared to in China?
Mhm. Firstly, in technology, I think infrastructure and innovation is something uh, we need to put more effort on. Um, China is like how say that we have a lot of resources currently, but companies always look at benefit, always look at um, how to make things beneficial in short term. So long term vision is very I think long term vision is something I want to see more in China. And I see that in a lot of Western companies. I like the word of Elon Musk. I don't specifically like the person, but I like the attitude that he had for SpaceX. He once said that it's something if something is so important, you will do it even the odd is not on your side. Um, that's not exactly what he said, but that's a meaning. I really like this because um, like the engine. If you want to have an engine, it's 10 years work or 20 years work that you can have something uh, good. If you want something world class, you may need to put your life effort on it because it's continually evolving. And all the investment on this kind of career is very hard to turn into benefit. Um, I don't say that benefit is not important, revenue is not important. I say we need to put effort on that, even if we have small chance to win or to stand. Yeah, that's one thing about technology. Um, about education, I think um, innovation is also the most important thing in China. We need to have because like in AI is dominating by American companies, OpenAI, AI, Google, Meta, and others. Um, they have a lot of talents work on that. We do have a lot of universities, good universities. We do have many papers released, but still there's no much innovations here compared to OpenAI, to ChatGPT, or to Midjourney, things like that. So I hope that educational, we could have more researchers who are innovative enough and collaborating with industry, and who both have long-term vision to build things in really long time.
Okay, and I mean, yeah, it, I agree. Like a good life, does mean working on something that you're excited about, that you're proud of, and
Mhm.
like the family side as well. So how old is your daughter now? Did you say 1 year?
Yes, 7 months.
So 7 months. Oh, okay, so you're just under the 1 year mark. Yeah, because my daughter was born last year as well, and
Oh,
she's 13 months now.
okay.
So yes, it's a similar stages. Obviously, going through all of that stuff.
Yeah.
The feeding, the cleaning, all that sort of stuff, sterilizing bottles and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, it helps with all the gadgets that you can get now. To sterilize bottles, to dispense
Yeah.
milk.
Yeah.
Compared to how our parents would have done it, where they would have done everything manually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm guessing, being in China, there's not a shortage of gadgets out there.
Gadgets. What kind of gadgets you mean?
Gadgets like tools.
Yeah.
Like for example, you can get a machine where you put the bottle underneath, you press a button, and it makes the milk for you. It mixes the formula and water at the right temperature, that sort of thing.
Okay. I don't rely on that. We do have machines to clean and to clean the bottles. Well,
Okay.
we have a good I actually don't know how to say that. Puset, I think. I don't know the English word for a lot of things in baby carrying, so it's hard to
Yeah, obviously that's fair enough.
fix that.
But
But
yeah, it's obviously exciting times.
we don't lack of gadget. Here, I think we are way more. It's way more easy for us to raise a child than our parents. Especially my wife is not working now, so she can take care of the baby. But we are not like a lot of other parents. A lot of other parents are depending on their parents to raise the child. We want to raise our child independently. So we are alone. We are all on our own.
I mean, fair enough. If you're doing that, you know, yourself, then obviously I know it's a very difficult thing. So it's
Yeah.
definitely very admirable, and it's something that, and obviously people that don't have kids, obviously wouldn't understand.
No.
But yeah, it's definitely exciting, and seeing your baby do different things every week.
Yeah.
Act differently and develop, because obviously at 7 months it won't be long till, if they're not already crawling, it won't be long till they're crawling, and then trying to walk, and then making sounds and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. She's not grown yet, but she tried to and she cried. she,
Yeah, it won't be long. I think our daughter, she started crawling around about, I want to say, between 8 and 10 months, I think.
uh,
Yeah, about the because definitely at the 10-month mark she was able to crawl,
Yeah.
Maybe before that, I think she was trying a bit. Now, if she sees the baby, because the baby gates are on the doors now. If she sees the gate open, she just goes for it.
Uh,
She just tries to escape.
okay. I'm really happy because she seemed to be very happy. She smiled a lot, and uh, sh- even during the night when uh, in the morning when she wake up smiling and was playing her own hands. So I'm really happy that I have this child.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, my daughter, her face is more serious most of the time. she she's more serious, and in the morning when she wakes up, because she can stand up now with some support, so she'll be standing in a cot and she'll be like holding it, and you'll hear her because she's crying because she wants to be picked up.
Yeah, she's a thinker, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, she just was she does not like to be left alone at all, because some babies don't mind being left alone. She prefers everyone around her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My daughter seems to be independent. We are starting to put her in her own room uh, last month, so now she sleep alone.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we put our daughter in her own room at about 6 months. In all fairness, she seems to prefer that overall,
Okay.
because obviously there's no, we're not making noise if we're moving or if we're snoring or anything like that. So
Uh-huh.
she does sleep better that way. But when she's awake, she wants people around her.
Yeah.
But obviously, everyone's different. Things change. Obviously, exciting times.
Yeah.
So, do you plan on trying to get your daughter into game development as well, and into that area?
I really have no plan for her. I the philosophy of mine raising a child is let her grow as an independent person. So I want her to make choices, make decisions for her own since very early years. Yeah, I want her to do that.
Okay, that's good stuff. Yeah, because I do want to try and get all of my kids onto programming, or have some basic knowledge of it, understand technology, and because obviously everything's becoming more and more technological.
Yeah, yeah. It will be definitely very hard to avoid her from seeing me playing games. That will be a problem.
Yeah, like when I sometimes play a game, she wants the controller and she wants to do, just press the button. Obviously, she doesn't really know what's happening, but she just likes to, press the buttons. Or same with a TV remote. If we have the TV remote, she likes to get the TV remote. Now she gets the TV remote and she presses the button and she looks at the TV to see what the button does. When he pauses it, she starts scrolling the wheel, and obviously she doesn't quite know how to change videos, but she ends up changing the videos, and she either gets happy or she gets sad depending on what pops up.
I see.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Will be something too.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's all the questions I've got for the podcast today, Wabin. I appreciate you coming on today. Do you have any closing thoughts for the audience before we wrap up?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure, and it's also a good opportunity to express how we do Cocos for your audience. And I think final note I want to leave for this podcast is that Cocos is very good at cross-platform, and it's a mobile-first game engine. And also, the vision of Cocos is to lower the barrier of the vision of Cocos is about accessibility, lower the barrier of development, and also lower the barrier to access to much more players. That doesn't mean the current gamers, but also general audience that want to have entertainment, that want to enjoy, amuse themselves uh, with with all kind of experiences, digital experiences. I think the game in the future will be much more broader than nowadays. Even if I play all these AAA titles and hardcore games, I really do think people need entertainment for more wilder sense, and game engine will help that happening.
Oh yeah. So yeah, obviously everyone, check out, the work that Huabin has been doing. Obviously, go to the Cocos website. I'll provide links in the description in the podcast to everything that Cocos does, so you can check all that out. And thank you, Huabin Ling, for coming onto the podcast. So you've just been hearing from Huabin, who's the Cocos Engine Technical Director, and he's worked there for many, many years, had a lot of experience, and been very influential. So it's been great having him on here, having that, contrast between, being a gamer and then a developer, and then also, the Western market, because a lot of people that listen to the podcast are in the West America and in the US. So to hear from somebody who's, in China making an engine, but then like you were saying, games like Geometry Dash, Kingdom Rush, and like Badlands, which are very popular in the West, have been made using a Chinese product. So it's good to hear that background from it. So again, appreciate you coming on. Thanks for watching and listening to the podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode of FireDEV. Bye bye.
Thank you, Farhan. Bye bye.